Talking TSM, the Game House's talk show about TSM's LCS team. I'm Robert Haynes, your host and your guide into the world of TSM's LCS team. And happy holidays to those of you who celebrate any of the, end of year, wintertime-ish type holidays that may be out there. You may see a little festiveness here from me because why not, right? We have a lot to be happy about, a lot to celebrate for with TSM. And I'm excited. I'm excited to be back, by the way. So for those of you who don't know, I was on vacation with my family in Florida for the last week, which is why we didn't have an episode this past week. Reminder, you can follow me on Twitter at TGHRobertHaynes to get updates about this show on a regular basis, in case if you're wondering, hey, when is this show coming out? You can also, I'll have a link in the description below about joining our Talking TSM Discord, where you can kind of interact with me a little bit more directly as well. But yeah, so I'm back. I'm really excited about it. And for today's episode, we've got a couple things that I want to go over in terms of the roster. I've had a lot more time to think about it. I've actually gotten to watch some games of Kaido and Shenyi, and I'm very excited for these players, but there's been a lot of discussion around these players, and I think there's a lot of things that we need to kind of maybe take apart and dissect with these players. And while I'm not going to do a super duper deep dive on them this time, because I feel like I've gone into them a pretty good amount, especially on our last episode 2 weeks ago. But I'm going to look at the team as to where they stand now with these players. I'm going to look at the players themselves, where I have them currently ranked. And then we're going to talk a little bit about kind of the rumors and different things that have been going on with TSM, because there seems to be this pending fear of what is going on with them in the LCS. And I want to make sure that we go over that. So, with that, we're going to jump right into segment one here. We're going to do our naughty and nice list. And you guys are going to hear about where I rank TSM. Are they on the naughty list? Are they on the nice list? And where do they rank on that? So I'm working on my power rankings. I've been working on it for a little over a week now. And it's going to be coming out on the Game House's website at thegamehouse.com here in the next couple days. I say couple days because it could be today, could be tomorrow, just depends. I've been really busy, and while I was on vacation, I wanted to make sure I dedicated time to spending with my family. So, I have it mostly written up. I have the rankings mostly finalized. Somebody else in the community that's a big, another big name, has a very similar ranking as mine. And so, I just want to make sure that I'm really confident in mine. I don't want mine to look like a, I don't know. How to put this? I don't want mine to look like a copycat. I've had my rankings kind of solidified here for a little over a week now. So, but there could be a change coming. We'll see. But I'm, without further delay, I'm going to get into where I have TSM currently. Now, I think that there are a couple tiers of where these teams are. And I'm not going to give you all of my rankings, so you're going to have to go, like I said, check out the article at the Game House. I can link that as well in the description for you. But I think there are some tiers as to where all of these teams line up. And I personally have 3 tiers, which I know everybody's like, oh, but you need, S tier and A, B, C, D, E, whatever. Like, I don't personally care about that. I think that there's there are some maybe small discrepancies between teams, but I do think that in general there are 3 teams. I think there's the top 3 teams, in my opinion, that are all really, really have a very good chance of not just making it to Worlds, but winning a title heading into the spring split. And just as a quick note here too, this is where I see the teams right now. This is not where I see them at the end of the year or even at the end of the spring necessarily, but this is where I see them as of right now, because there's a lot of changes. I mean, I think like almost half of the rosters changed in terms of like even just brand new players. And obviously way over half changed in terms of like who's on new teams. I'm going to say it's like 70% of teams changed, positions. Like the 100 Thieves are the only team that had the same players but added one. So, there's a lot of change in the LCS this year, obviously. And so, keep in mind that as I give you this ranking, this is just where I see these teams now, and specifically, obviously, TSM. So, again, sorry. Tier 1 is what I'm going to call it, where I have these top 3 teams that I think are very much the top 3, the best of the best that we have right now. Then I have Tier 2, where I have 4 teams. So I have 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th in this tier, where I think they are playoff contenders. I think that they can push for a world spot should one of the top 3 teams kind of falter, or should they play better than expected. And then I have 3 teams at the bottom of the LCS, where I believe that they are just, they're going to be, they will be pushing for a playoff spot at best. And at worst, they're going to be the teams that sadly end up at the bottom of the rankings. I do truly believe that this will be another really great year for the LCS in terms of the parity between the teams, meaning that, like, I believe that there are probably 5 to 6 actually good teams, 3 being better than the other 3. But even the bottom 4 teams, I don't, you can have a different opinion than me, but even the team that I have ranked 10th, I think if a couple things go right for them and certain players make some adjustments, then I believe that they can be very, very good, and exceed expectations. And when I say very good, I mean relative to where they are. So I don't think that there's necessarily a super weak team in the LCS. I think there are a couple weak players on teams that will definitely hurt them, but it doesn't feel like there's, like, this year that there are going to be teams that are just going to be blown over. And I think we saw that at the end of last year. Golden Guardians and FlyQuest were at the bottom for a lot of the time, and then they ended up fighting for playoff spots because, frankly, they the teams got better as the year went on. And so, even with this new system in spring really just not mattering whatsoever. I mean, the first 6 months of LCS are kind of a wash outside for the team that goes to MSI. It not a wash. It's a growth period. It allows them to get ready for the summer. So, I almost see it as like a prolonged, enormously and unfortunately prolonged preseason for all these teams. But regardless, that's how I looked at these power rankings. I really looked at the players themselves and how they mesh with the team and where they compared to a lot of the other players. And so, I have my questions. I know I hyped you guys up about Kaido and Shenyi last week or 2 weeks ago, and I still feel similarly about them. But I will say that my official ranking as of right now is that I have TSM in that 2nd tier. I have them in 4th right now. They could potentially move down to 5th, but I don't see them being any higher than 4th. And here's my main reasoning for that. I don't know what Kaido is yet. I think he can be very good. I think he's going to surprise people, and I think he could be very much better than we expect. But it's hard for me to place TSM higher than 3 other teams because mid is such an important role, and he doesn't have to be a superstar for us to be good. He needs to just be good. Just good. If he can finish top 5 in the LCS in mid, then I think we're going to be very, very happy because I think the rest of our players can do better than even what I have them in my fantasy rankings for. So, with TSM, we have a brand new coaching staff. We have 2 new players. We are trying something very, very, very new. And I think our range of where we can be as a team is going to very much be determined by how well these new players integrate into the rest of the team. And, because I think Tactical, Spica, and Huni, like, I only think that Spica and Tactical are going to get better this year than they were last year, and I think that Huni will hopefully not regress. Is my big hope with him, and so I think that those three are going to be solid. Obviously they all speak English. The biggest problem is that Shenyi and Kaido don't speak English apparently, and while I think they have Peter Zhang up there, and while I think Chawi is there too to kind of cross over and make things easier for these players to understand, it's going to take a while to build this communication. And from everything that I've been hearing and everything that everybody else is saying, right? Like TSM are putting the money into making sure that communication is the least of an issue as possible. And we saw with Sword Art, things got better and better throughout the year. Obviously, his English was way better than, from what it sounds like, Kaido and Shenyi's are. But, I have questions about them integrating. Now, luckily, League of Legends is a game where if you can just play the game, you're going to be, and you're good at it, you're going to mesh with your team to some degree. I think specifically Shenyi and Tactical are going to figure it out. I think Shenyi might be that good of a player moving forward, to be honest with you. Like, there's a chance he's very, very, very good from everything that I've seen and what I've been reading. And yeah, like, he doesn't have these standout plays necessarily, but again, like, the guy's basically been playing for a little over a year. Like, that takes time for a lot of these players and a comfortability factor. So as long as they can communicate basics like attack, don't attack, Leona, or, whatever the AD carry, Tristana, like, as long as they can communicate the champions' names and who to attack, and they will feel each other out as the season goes on, I think they're going to be fine. Now, I think we're going to see a little bit more of a, a little less of a confident Tactical to a certain degree. Like, I don't think he's going to be taking insane plays right away. I hope I'm wrong, but, I think, he may be playing a little more reserved, is what I'm saying. At least to start, until they get really, really comfortable with each other. So, yeah, I'm not as worried about them, but Kaido, it's gonna be important. Luckily, Spica, speaks Mandarin very fluently, from what it sounds like, and so he's gonna be able to roam around the map with Kaido, and it's gonna be really hard on him. I mean, he's gonna have to be the in-game communicator, English and Mandarin. I mean, this is a big undertaking for him. But to be fair, if he was going to the LPL, it would kind of be similar. Like, yes, you'd have to talk a lot more Mandarin, I'm sure, being in an LPL team. But, he's known the game in English probably way more than he's known it in terms of, working with a team in Mandarin. I'm sure he knows the game in Mandarin. But I'm talking about, in terms of working with a team in a different language, that's tough. And so this is kind of like giving him a taste of, what it would be like for him as a mostly English-speaking player going over to the LPL. So, yeah, I mean, I just, there are questions there, and the infrastructure is going to be brand new. These players are coming over from China. I mean, as far as I know, they're the second and third players to be coming over from China in terms of the LCS ever. I believe that is correct. Outside of, I think, was it LMQ or something like that, who brought over a bunch of players. I believe it was from China, beforehand. But I'm talking about just since it's been the actual, straight up LCS. I believe they are the second and third players to do it. And so this is an experiment, and it's going to take time. And I think that's where it's really important for us to look at, how, or just for us to have patience, is what I'm going to say. And on paper, if all the players come together, I think they can be fourth. That said, they could also finish as far down as eighth, in my opinion. Which I know a lot of you are going to turn this video off after that, probably. And I'm sorry. But, again, this is just for where they are right now. Once we see them playing, obviously we will adapt to where we are feeling. But this could be a little bit of a long, especially first split for us, where, we're on a team that we're not used to. There's going to be a lot of frustrations, guys. There's going to be. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We can't skirt around the issue that this is an experiment, and it may not work right away, and it may take time. And so, and it may not work at all. I'm just going to be honest with you. There's a chance that Spica gets just overwhelmed by the amount of Mandarin that he's translating and trying to coordinate everything, and we don't see MVP level Spica, and he's making more mistakes, and Huni's making more mistakes, and Kaido is just kind of there. I don't think he's going to be bad to the point where he's like completely useless, but like, he's just kind of almost invisible in games, which to some degree was power of evil at times. Tactical could be inting in, and Shenyi could be really lost. I mean, guys, that's worst case scenario, and that could absolutely happen. That being said, I think the talent is there, and I think the understanding of the game is there, but they're young. This is all new. Okay? And so, when you look at my rankings, hopefully later today or sometime this week, you'll see like I really do believe that our range is somewhere between 4th and 8th, and I think that we have the opportunity to be better than that for sure. I really do. I think if everything goes right, this can be a top 2 team in the LCS. But it's going to have to take everything to go right away for that. I will see how I feel about the team during the summer. I'm not going to freak out and be as worried about the spring or the lock-in, and neither should you guys. Really, you just shouldn't be, because spring doesn't matter, and yeah, it'd be cool if we went to MSI, but I'm going to be completely frank with you. The other top 3 teams in the league, there's just, I'm not going to say no way, but it's pretty unlikely for us to make MSI. So we have to temper our expectations and really understand where this team is at, what they are doing, and understand that these things, these builds, these rebuilds of sorts, they take time. Okay? And so I'm going to preach patience again. We did this last year. We had a lot of new pieces. We had Swordar coming in, and we worried about even his communication, even though he knew English pretty well. Now we don't have Bjergsen as our coach who can bring over the TSM standards, right? Kays luckily is staying, and Peter Zhang will be able to bring that. But there are a lot of questions, and while it's fun to drink the Kool-Aid and it is fun to believe in this team and see the potential that they can have, it's also healthy for us to have our expectations set to understanding that there's the possibility that this team is very bad to start, that they struggle mightily, especially against the teams that are just frankly more cohesive and don't have the language problems that we are most certainly going to have. And if we don't, then Chawi should be up for Coach of the Year. If this man can really figure this thing out and put this team together and be the sort of leader and big brain coach that we're all hoping he can be, then I honestly, it doesn't matter how well the rest of them play unless if we have somebody just absolutely playing out of their mind. I would 100% say that Chawi is like Coach of the Year if he can pull this together. But if not, then, again, I'm not necessarily going to blame him either. I mean, he's being put with a really tough task. And it's clear to me that TSM have a path that they want to follow, and we'll hope that they can get as high as 4th. I'll tell you this much. If we get to the spring freaking playoffs and we're able to finish 4th and we're able to make that game real close, right, where we're almost there, where we can almost push to go to MSI, then we should be absolutely ecstatic. Sure, we're going to be sad that we lose eventually. That's fine. But if we can get to that point, guys, then we should be pumped, because that means summer is only going to get better, because these guys are just going to grind the entire break, because they'll have, I think, like 2 months off, after playoffs. And they will use that time to communicate better, to work together, to be together. I believe they're all boot camping, or they're all close to being able to boot camp. Hopefully after Christmas for a couple weeks at least. It might even be a month. We'll see if they're going to come back for a lock-in tournament or not. But they go all boot camp, and hopefully it's going to be really nice. So that's where I have them. I have them on the nice list. I do think that they can be a 4th place team, and I think with all the questions surrounding a lot of the other teams below us, frankly, I think that Spica's an MVP type caliber player, and I think that these young guys, Kaido and Shenyi, come in with the expectation they know what they're getting into. Yeah, they're young. We're gonna have to be careful about that, But apparently, TSM even talked to their parents to really, grasp what's coming and what the decisions are gonna be. So, yay for us. Hopefully, that will be really good. We're gonna head into the second section here, and we're gonna talk about the player rankings that I have for each player on our team. Now, to be fair, this is based off of fantasy. All right, this is not fantasy as in like my ultimate fantasy. No, I'm talking about like fantasy LCS. What are they doing in terms of points? Where do they rank according to everybody else? It was a little tougher to get Kaido and Shenyi's. I was thankfully able to use Tim Sevenhuizen's Oracle's Elixir. Huge shout out to him for putting that all together. I was able to go check out LDL stats and was able to really see where our players rank in terms of points and everything else. And I think you guys would be surprised. Now, listen, these are not the end-all, be-all for where I'm going to rank these players, okay? This is just strictly based on fantasy, and now I will tell you kind of where I have them ranked fantasy-wise, and then I'll explain to you where I have them ranked more realistically, because guess what? TSM was not a high-scoring fantasy team last year, okay? We didn't get a lot of kills. I think this team's going to be very different, by the way, but we didn't get a lot of kills, and we more focused on the macro game. So the points and everything are going to be a little more skewed because that's just not who we were. We're going to outplay people with macro, and we'll fight them when we have to. But again, I think this team's going to be very different. I expect this team to be insanely aggressive. I think it's going to be crazy, crazy, crazy aggressive. So we'll start in the top lane. And right now I have Huni in 4th. I think in terms of his impact as a player, I think he could be top 2 or 3. Now, I believe it was I Am Germ. I watched a video of his recently. You should go follow him if you get a chance, or subscribe to him. I know he's trying to get to, I think it's 10,000 subs. Nice guy. He's busting his ass. I would absolutely go and give him at least a follow, and hopefully you'll subscribe to him too. But I was listening to one of his videos, and I think he was making a good point where, top lane especially, we just don't really know what's going on. We didn't have Alfari for a lot of the season. There were, questions about Huni being ranked in the top 3 because, there were a lot of players who either didn't live up to expectations or didn't play the way that, didn't play, frankly, just didn't play. And so, while I totally understand that argument, I do want to say that, Impact still played a full season. Licorice still did play a full season. He just didn't have a great team around him. And, with all the new players that are coming in, it's going to be tough. So, again, I'm going to selflessly plug this. I mean, this is the Game House's show and the show that I'm making right now, and I'm writing these articles. So I'm going to have, if you are interested in LCS Fantasy, we are going to be doing a TSM only fantasy league. Right now, we have enough people for 1 league. I anticipate we'll probably end up having 2 leagues, though. So if you are interested in that, again, head over to Discord. And I'm going to be putting out my rankings this week. Christmas present for all of you who've been waiting for these, because I know a lot of you have been. People have been asking me about it. I just needed TSM to finish their roster, and then of course that came right before I went on vacation, so I didn't have really time to finish it all last week. But I'm gonna be putting it together this week. It's gonna be a busy week, fam, real busy. But that's okay. I'm excited. This is gonna be great. So top lane, Huni. Right now, here's where I have him. I have him 4th because I think Bwipo is going back to top lane. He's gonna be reinvigorated. I think Team Liquid are going to be a very good team, honestly, and I think he's there right now. I have Impact because in terms of fantasy, he always performs fantasy-wise. It doesn't matter. I've been playing this game for a long time. Impact gets fantasy points, period. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how good his team is. He just gets points. Then Licorice. Licorice was actually one of the best top laners in the LCS once he moved over to Golden Guardians. He was back in form, and very, very big way. Like, if he had been in that form the entire season, he would have finished number one in terms of fantasy points last year in the LCS. And, I mean, like, I think he had as many kills in half the games, and like less deaths and a lot more assists. I mean, he just played really a lot better. And then I have our boy Huni, who had a good season. It was a little underwhelming again because we didn't get a lot of kills, but he died a lot. I mean, there's just no way around it. He died a lot, but that's okay. I mean, that's what I mean. He would die so much to help our team get better. And so, while yes, I have him ranked 4th right now in terms of fantasy points, I believe, for a few reasons, that he's going to be a top 3 top laner. I think that Impact is going to stay up there, and I think Bwipo is going to stay up there. I think it's between him and Licorice. And I think Pride Stalker is not as good of a jungler, excuse me, as Spica. That's no surprise. So, I'm not even ruining any rankings there. And I'm not going to talk about mid yet with Kaido and a Blaze Olive. I think I'll save that here for when we go through mid lane. But I think the top side of the map is going to be better for TSM just because of Spica alone. And I think that his relationship with Huni will... And I truly think for at least the early part of the season, they may have to play through Huni. And so he's going to get a lot of resources, and I think it's going to make him look even better than what he might actually be. And in terms of skill, I mean, he's at least top 5, I think, always. I think he has that ability when he's at his best to be top 2. I think when he's at his worst, he can be, bottom 5. I can't really see him being past 6th this year. I mean, when you have Kumo, Fake God, and Revenge, I just can't really see him getting past maybe 5th or 6th place. And Tenacity and Someday are going to be splitting time, so that's going to probably, until they decide on a top laner with 100 Thieves, there's going to be questions surrounding that. So, I listen, guys, I think Huni's really good. I think when you even it all out, he comes out to around 3rd or 4th at best. And at worst, I think he's 6th. And there's nothing wrong with that because we just need him to be stable and need him to be able to be played through when we need him to be played through. It's plain and simple. And if he can do that and he can play some weak side okay, then guess what? Then that's great. Top is like at times such an irrelevant position that sometimes you just have to be there. We don't need him getting solo kills. We just need him to do what he did last year a lot of the time, which is play the weak side, don't get killed, and then hop into team fights when we need you to. Right? And if you get a lead and you're able to get some solo kills, awesome. So great. But we don't need that. But we're going to be playing into this new style, I think, which is aggressive, which I think is going to help him overall. And again, we at our 2 carry positions, with Tactical and Kaido, we have brand new players to the team at least. So if you want to win early on while the other 2 get used to their team and to the role, you go to the places that you know. And Spica and Huni are that. We know what Spica and Huni can do together. Everything else is still a question mark. But these 2 players, they are returning. They know each other. They have played together now for over a year because, they were playing with each other, I believe, back in December, practicing and everything of last year. And they're going to have the familiarity. And if you want to win early on, you play through that familiarity. Plain and simple. So that's where I got him. Now, people aren't going to like this, but again, this is mostly based on the fact of what they did last year in terms of points. For jungle, I have Closer, Santorin, Blabber, Inspired, and then our boy Spica. I think Spica is a top 3 jungler. I'm going to say that into the mic. I believe in terms of skill, he is a top 3 jungler. The problems come when we have just so many unknowns and there's just going to be a lot of things that he has to be able to accomplish. And that's going to take away from some of his ability as a player. again, closers returning with a full team. Santorin has a superstar known team. Guys, you have to understand there are a lot of unknowns in the LCS this year. TL will be good mainly for the fact that every single one of those players are known. They not just like that, oh, people know them. Like, no, we know what their abilities are. We know what champions they can play. We know what they can do if they are put together. Plain and simple. That is just how it is. You don't have to like it. You don't have to like it at all. But guess what? Like, you know, that doesn't really matter. So yeah, I mean, listen, we're gonna be a good team, right? And I think that Spica is going to be the driver for that. But especially to start this year and everything else, I think he's just gonna be a little lower down. And guys, like, Blabber's really good. I know he's got a lot of unknowns too. I could maybe flip flop them, but Blabber also gets a lot of points. That's why he's higher in this fantasy ranking. And Inspired's a beast. I think Inspired could end up being one of the best. He might be the best jungler in the LCS. I really, really like him. I just think that he's really, really good. And I think Spica's really, really good too, but even for Inspired, he's got a little less unknowns to a certain degree because he doesn't have to deal with the language issue. Plain and simple. Jojo Pian is a once-in-a-potentially lifetime player for the LCS, and he speaks English, so it makes Inspired's job way easier because he also speaks English, and so does Impact. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm at with that one. But I do think overall Spica's going to be a lot better than just that. Heading into mid lane is going to be where our biggest questions are. I think for when we're looking at mid lane, there's a lot of things to honestly consider. And so it's really hard to rank Kaido, to be honest with you guys. Like, of all of our players, he's just, I said this in the segment before. I'm gonna say it here. He's just such an unknown. He is such an enigma to a certain degree. I mean, it's even hard to find gameplay of this player because a lot of the LDL stuff for us is blocked. Like, I think it's on Weibo. Sorry, I am sure I'm absolutely butchering that, but it's just not something that's easily found. In terms of his playing, I was able to watch a couple of games on my own, plus what other people were able to dig up, and I honestly think he could be a very, very good mid laner. I mean, he's literally only played for one season, so the people who are like, "Oh, he's bad," like TSM, I'm gonna get into this in segment 3, but like, you know, these people who are claiming that, you know, he was just the best that they could get, maybe, but that doesn't mean that he's bad. You know, he's going to be a good mid laner. Is he going to be great? I don't know. But we talked about this 2 weeks ago. 23 different champions. Great KDAs. He got better each, you know, between both splits that he played. He got significantly better, in my opinion. And, you know, he's going to be playing with a team that's, frankly, probably, at least in terms of relative skill to who their opponents are, going to be better than, you know, what he had with when he was with Thunder Talk. So, like, I understand the hesitancies, and I feel them myself. I have him ranked 7th in terms of mid laners, behind Bjergsen, Abadage, Power of Evil, Blaze Olive, Fudge, and Jojo Pian. Not in that order, but just those are the players that I have him behind. And it's not because of his skill necessarily. It's just because he's unknown. And in fantasy, when you are playing fantasy, LCS, you want more knowns, especially when you have short seasons, okay? And this season's going to be especially short because I don't even know how the heck they're going to be able to combine enough games for LCS and LEC to actually be able to do anything. So I think they're going to have to just have LCS and LEC leagues. So it's really unfortunate, but whatever. And truly, like, let's just walk through these players, right? Fudge, the only reason he's higher is because he's shown that he's a good player and he can play a solo lane. And I think it's going to take him some time to get used to the mid lane, but I do think he's generally going to be a pretty solid mid laner. Is he going to be great? I don't know yet. Like, there's some major question marks around that team, but that's fine. Jojo Pian again. Guys, if you don't know this name, Jojo Pian, then do some research. This kid, I believe, if I remember correctly, went literally from being a top Fortnite player to a top League of Legends player after only playing the game for like 2 years. He's unbelievable. Like, he's a stud. Like, he literally came from not even being known in 1 year to starting in the LCS. He is going to be a beast. It may take him some time too, just like a lot of these players, but he's going to be a beast. Power of Evil is Mr. Consistent. He's going to probably always be top 5 until there are 5 better players than him, and even then he will probably push them because he's just he's a great guy. He works hard. He knows what he's good at. Listen, I mean, Power of Evil could be even top 2 or 3 if it's only mages. You know, if it's just control mage central, man, it's hard to beat that boy in lane. It's just frankly hard. Is he gonna pop off all the time? Nah. Is he gonna get a bunch of solo kills? Nah. Is he gonna play side lanes very well? Yeah, maybe. But is the boy gonna be able to control the spacing of mid laners and be able to pump out AP damage? Absolutely. So, you know, it's hard to really rank Kaido above him right now. Blaze Olive had an outstanding season. People don't really recognize it because Golden Guardian struggled, but he was the main reason they even were able to find things. The boy is super adaptive. He gets a lot of kills. They can play through him. He can play through everybody else on his team. He's a beast. Bjergsen's Bjergsen. I don't think we have really any questions about that. And Abadage had a great season. And he's going to have an even better one because he's going to be used to his teammates even more, right? The shock of moving from Europe to North America to being on this brand new team, to go into Worlds with them. He's built up a rapport with them. He can play a lot of different champions. He's just a beast. The mid lane is tough. I mean, even Takui and Palafox are not bad players necessarily. They're not as good relatively to everybody else, but like they can be solid mid laners at their best. Blue is the only one that I think is just an absolute. Just toss it. I mean, I'm sorry, Blue. I'm sure you are super, super nice guy. I really believe that. Hopefully, I don't know you at all, but I'm sure you are. But, bro, like, you're gonna have to really improve this year to do anything. So, and so, you know, I think I have Kaido at the lowest that he can be. I think 7th is the absolute lowest. I don't see him being worse than Takui or Palafox. I just don't. I don't think that that's going to be the case. I think at his best, like I said last week, I think he can be better than Fudge because Kaido's been a mid laner. That's enough. I think he can be better than Jojo because Jojo's super young. He's still learning the game. I think long term Jojo's going to be probably the best mid laner in the LCS, but I think for now, like, he could be better than him. I think he'd absolutely be better than Power of Evil. We've seen that. They would have kept Power of Evil if not, right? That's just, I'm sure Power of Evil wanted to get out to a certain degree too, from what it sounds like, but why not keep him? If he takes up the international slot anyways, you could have just easily signed Shenyi and kept him and still had a pretty solid roster. But I absolutely can see Kaido surpassing Power of Evil at some point. He just plays way more champions, and he's a lot more versatile, and he can still play some of the champions that Power of Evil can, just not as good as he can. A Blaze Olive could fall off very easily, and Kaido could surpass him. Quote me on it. It could absolutely happen. Would not surprise me at all. Same thing with Abadage. I do think that Abadage has a very high floor and a relatively high ceiling, but I think we already know what he can and can't do, and sometimes he's Faker Dage, and sometimes he's the Invisible Man. It just kind of depends on what the team wants. Luckily, he has a great team around him, but I think in terms of skill, sure, Kaido could pass him. And then Bjergsen, guys, we don't know what Bjergsen's going to be. He's been out for a year. Now, I would be absolutely stunned if Kaido is better than Bjergsen. like at all this year. Potentially ever. We don't know. I mean, that's how little we know about him. But you know, if Bjergsen just struggles, he comes back and he's lost a step or two just from not playing for a year. There's a chance he could pass him too. I mean, all of these things are possible for Kaido because we just don't know enough about him. So I think his absolute best this year is third or fourth, or this coming up split specifically. I think his worst is seventh. That's fine for us. He's brand new. You know, you got to give him time. This is his first time in a major league. He's going to probably be nervous for the first couple games. Hopefully, he'll actually play in lock-in. I understand people are like, no, we don't want them to, like, maybe they won't play in lock-in. Maybe they'll just let the academy team so that they can boot camp. Like, no, use lock-in as a time to do it and then just boot camp if you get knocked out early. Pretty plain and simple. Oh, man, I didn't put in here the lock-in groups. We have 100 Thieves, C9, and, oh God, I can't remember the rest. I think, here, I'm going to check real quick. Sorry, guys. Don't mean to take little pauses here, unless I have to. But I retweeted this recently enough to where I can, I believe, easily find it. Okay, here we go. 100 Thieves, C9, us, Golden Guardians, and FlyQuest. I think we actually have a pretty strong group. It's going to be tough, but whatever. So, yeah. Gang, that's where Kaido is. For AD carry, I got Tactical fourth. Even in terms of just points. I don't think that this is going to be as tough in terms of where to rank him. I do think AD carry is going to be a really fun and interesting role for the LCS. I think Hansama is going to be up there. I think Danny's going to be up there. I think FBI is going to be up there. I think people are going to be surprised when they see this, but I truly believe Johnson has a chance to be up there, thanks to him playing with Aphromoo again. Apparently, Berserker can be a beast. Neo can be very good, but I think losing Aphromoo is going to hurt him. Lost, we know what Lost is. He's fine. Turtle, Luger, maybe Sven if he comes back for a Berserker, but I think Tactical can finish top 4. I have him. My lowest I truly have him is fifth max, and that's really if like specifically Berserker just goes off. I think the top 5 are, again, just in no particular order: FBI, Danny, Hansama, Tactical, and Berserker. I have Johnson higher just because I think Berserker is going to take some time in the spring, but yeah, guys, I mean, Tactical had a good year last year, no surprise. He didn't even get a ton of resources, and he still finished near the very top in terms of AD carries and points for fantasy, and I think that it's going to hold true into this year. I believe that TSM are going to want to try to play through him as well at times, a lot more than we used for Lost, especially if Shenyi ends up being a beast, because then we could have a very dominant 2v2, which then would really allow us to play through top or bot lane. I'd be fine with either, and I think you guys should be too. So, there's not much more to say about Tactical other than at his best, Tactical can be the best AD carry in the LCS. When he is on his game and he's not accidentally inting and coin flipping, this kid has the opportunity mechanically and mentally to be one of the best, if not the best, in the LCS. And yes, I am saying he can be better than Hansama and FBI. I've seen Hansama when he's not having the Worlds appearance that he just had. Okay? And he's very good, but he wasn't really top AD carry in the LEC all the time. There are games where he has duds or where he's relatively not useful, and so Tactical can be better than that. We saw the same thing with FBI. Danny is still young. I mean, he is Tactical. Well, Tactical is him, like, whatever. Like, they both had their pop-off moments as young players. They've clearly, Danny's established himself more. I think Immortals are going to be or not Immortals, I think EG are going to be a pretty good team. So, I think the only reason I have Danny higher than Tactical here is because of Vulcan. That's it. Other than that, I think Tactical's better, or can be better than him. And yeah, I do worry about him not having Core JJ, but I also think that there was because they had Alfari, they played through him. And I think when Tactical was at his best was when when TL were having games where they played through him, and they didn't really do that last year. CoreJJ left him on an island. You can have a great support all you want, but if he's not actually on your team, if he's not actually helping you, then and he's roaming, then it doesn't matter how good your support is. Outside of like the first 3 levels, that's like the first 5 minutes of the game. Sorry, just you can argue, you can disagree with me all you want. That's fine, but if your support's not actually in the lane with you, then it doesn't really matter how good that support is in terms of compared to the AD carry. And I think that showed how good Tactical can be, because if I remember correctly, CoreJJ had the least amount of time in the duo lane of all supports last year. And Tactical still played well. So, get out of here. Tactical's going to be good. I think he's going to have a great year. He's back on his team. He's with one of his best friends. He's going to fit in great with Hooney. He's going to probably be super happy that Peter Zhang is up on the main roster with him. I just fully believe that. Okay, supports. I have to redo these rankings for fantasy because I just added Shenyi this morning, but I have him 6th right now behind any combination of Aphromu, CoreJJ, Vulcan, Destiny, and Huhi. Destiny was surprisingly good last year, considering he had to work with Raze the whole time. So he could be a dark horse. But support doesn't really matter in terms of fantasy right now in the way that people are using it. I have a Dynasty League that I'm doing with a couple other people. Some from this Talking TSM Discord and some from TGH, and there's just some friends from around Twitter. And support, we're working on a new way to make supports a little bit more relevant. Hopefully we'll be able to figure that out in the next couple weeks, because I also got to do that. So that's going to be fun. But I think Shenyi could very easily be top 3. I think this guy is really good. Not just because he played on FPX, not just because he played well on FPX. When you have a team of really good players around you, you're going to play well. But, he's smart in his trades. I think he understands when to be aggressive and when not to be. He was a very highly touted support and was somebody who a lot of people thought was going to make his way up to the LPL anyways this year. And if that's the case, then I think he's more than good enough for the LCS. And I can tell you right now, as much as I like Aphromu, he can absolutely be better than him. I think he will definitely eventually be better than Destiny and Huhi, Biofrost, Poom, Ole, Winsome or Isles, doesn't matter of those two. I absolutely can see them being better than that. And argue with me all you want on that one too, but I think he could be an absolute beast. And I think CoreJJ is going to fall off at some point. The guy's almost 30, so I understand he's proving us wrong. You can play until your later age. I freaking love it. Means I have a chance. Not really. But I do think that he can absolutely do it. And truly, Vulcan has his games where he messes up too. He does. I mean, it's just a fact. So, if Vulcan is at the top of his game, and I think him and EG probably will be, I think he'll probably be better than Shenyi for right now. But I think in terms of talent, I think he's the most exciting LCS support in the league outside of CoreJJ. Plain and simple. And while he's not going to be in my top 5 for fantasy, at least to start, I believe that by the end of the spring, he will be getting votes for All-Pro. I think he'll probably finish 3rd team to Vulcan and CoreJJ, but I think there's a chance that he could finish, even higher than that if this duo lane's able to figure it out, because I think they might be the key to us performing better. While Kaido is, again, very important for us, I do think he can play a role where he plays Twisted Fate and Galio and goes around and helps the rest of the team. I think that could absolutely happen. And then you go through bot lane where they can just duo lane the crap out of everybody. So, yeah. That's where I have our players ranked for right now. Again, I'll put you... Hooney is currently 4th, but I think could be anywhere between 2nd and 5th. I don't see him being the top, guys, just going to be honest with you. Spica could be between 1st and 5th very easily. There are better junglers in the league than there have been in the past, and I think some got better. So, and I understand that Spica won over Closer and Blabber and Santorin. Santorin was injured. Blabber had a bad year, and I do think he's better than Closer, but Closer just had more points, so that's why I have him in the rankings a little bit higher. Mid lane, Kaido is somewhere between 3rd, 4th, and 7th. I think 4th is the highest again for right now. AD carry-wise, Tactical can be anywhere from 1st to, I think 4th would be his absolute lowest. And support, I think Shenyi can easily be top 3 by at least the end of the spring. If he's able to communicate well with Tactical and he really learns, his patterns of behavior and everything like that, and how he can best, fit around the rest of the team, he's a super strong, engaged, and a very aggressive support. And I think we're going to have a lot of fun watching him. So if you don't notice, pretty much all my players are top 5 for TSM, except for Kaido. And I think that's why I have us looking at 4th right now for the power rankings. So there you go. We're heading to the last segment here. And I technically have about 10 minutes left. This one will probably take closer to 15 or 20. So buckle in. Because this has been kind of the talk lately, and I get it. I really do. I think that so the conversation is, are TSM trending down, right? Are they trending in a downward direction in terms of not just the team, but where they've been and what they've been doing, and they've really struggled since Doublelift left the first time. Well, I guess it would technically be the second time. But, the last 4 years have not been great. We've won one championship in 2020 on a miracle run. That was amazing. But, again, with Doublelift. And we have really struggled to bring in new talent at times. Sven was not what we wanted him to be. Mithy was not. We were really excited about Mike Young. That experiment failed dramatically, sadly. Kabe didn't work out. I think Sword Art kind of worked out. I think Hooney's worked out. Spica's worked out. But, even Dardock, right? Those were some days. There's just been a lot of things that haven't worked. And we haven't been able to keep a coach. There's been no consistency at all. And I think that's why we see a lot of problems with the LCS in general. And I think a lot of people forget that, to be honest with you. I think that a lot of people just... Sorry, I dropped my mic. Or not my mic, my headphone thingy. But I think people really struggle at times to remember, that just... the consistency is so freaking important in the LCS. And... while TL, does their thing where they go out and buy a bunch of players, and yes, it is frustrating that they can just go out and buy players and they buy the best and it works out for them, right? And that's great, but the other thing that they're doing is they're buying players that they know will probably fit well together. It's a good strategy. It works, but they spend a ton of money and sometimes they don't find a lot of success. But they do give these teams normally a good year or two to work together. I mean, there were changes on TL over time. But like a lot of the core pieces stayed the same, and normally they'd only change like one player, a season. And they try to keep most of the same players together. Obviously that's changed now, but I think that's been Steve's, kind of his MO. I think Cloud9 has found the same thing. They've stuck with mostly the same players. They'll trade out one or two. And for us, like, that just wasn't the case. I mean, it was literally just Bjergsen and then change everything else around him constantly. New jungler, new AD carries, new supports, new top laners, year after year after year. And that 2020 team was awesome, right? I mean, we will remember that probably for the rest of our lives, for a lot of us dedicated TSM fans. But they've been trending down outside of that, outside of that really magical run that they had. And notice the players they had. Again, Bjergsen and Doublelift, yes, obviously the staples. But Spica, right? This was his first year really kind of getting into the team. Obviously showed that he could be a great player. Broken Blade had been with the team for 2 years. He was a consistent player. And then they brought back Biofrost, who knew how to win with with this team. Was he great? No. But did he know how to win? Yes. And I think we are freeing ourselves now from the mindsets of those players, and not in a bad way. I mean, they all were great, and they have great legacies with this team. And I'm sad to see Bjergsen depart and Doublelift depart, and now Biofrost, is on Dignitas. But it's like, this is just a whole new direction. And I think, if we're going to talk about this as a whole, I think these 4 things that I have up here are important. So we're going to just go through these as quickly as I can, and we'll talk about it. Rumors of the LDL/LP or LCK tryouts. Well, it's really LPL. It's like China and Korea tryouts, right? Rumors are that, they couldn't even get Cream, and they couldn't get Care, and they couldn't get these other players to come. And so, of course, Kaido was the best one because he was playing against a bunch of people who weren't as good. Listen, fine. Whatever. It's probably because Cream was literally the cream of the crop. He was the top one. I'm sorry, but if you expect TSM or any organization truly to come into the LPL and take away their best player after they've won Worlds 2 of the last 3 years, and they're paying their players a bunch of money, and they don't have to leave home, then you're out of your damn mind. I'm sorry. But, sure, did I think Cream was an option? That's what everybody's talking about it. It sounded like it was an option. Was he at tryouts? Sounds like he wasn't. Who cares? Who cares? It's still TSM. There are a lot of young players who probably wanted to show what they wanted to do. And sure, they weren't able to get the Knights and the rookies and all that. Guys, that was not the reason why they went there. They went there for young, developmental talent. And were there better options? I didn't even talk about Kaido in the mid lane. I just didn't. I still think that there might have been 1 or 2 guys who may have been even better than him. But I think he was on a trajectory that was trending towards where they were going. And some of those players were a little bit older than him. Okay? And if you expect us to go there, at least right now, and be able to take the top talent right away, then you're wrong. It doesn't... Listen, it doesn't matter. Put him on a team that's actually really good, and next thing you know, he could have been the top option, right? It could have been a team of circumstance, right? The fact that he just didn't have as good of a team around him. It was his first year playing. I don't, how is this trending downward because we couldn't necessarily get the best player from the best region in the world? Screw off. I don't, that's such a terrible argument to me. It makes no sense. We got the best player that we could find there, and one that is fitting the path that we are trying to take. That's what matters. And if people can't recognize that, then that's fine. And maybe he ends up being a total dud, right? Okay, that's one position. You can find other mid laners. They are out there, okay? You can go back to China and try again. I'm sorry, but it's just everybody's just oh, TSM, can't do this and that anymore. And it's just, name me a team that could. Maybe 100 Thieves could have gotten somebody a little bit better because they've been playing well lately. TL, maybe they could have gotten somebody a little bit better. Maybe. We don't know. We don't know who was there. We don't know anything other than the fact that they said he played really well, he played the way that we liked, and he was the guy who was willing to sign. Plain and simple. And I can tell you this much. If he was truly just not that good, right? If they really had major questions about Kaido and whether or not he was even good enough to play in the LCS, they would not have signed him. They would not have signed him. I'm just telling you right now, they would not have signed him. So, clearly they think he has potential, and that's enough for me. We will find out. Maybe I will eat these words later. I will fully admit to it if I do, but whatever. And then there was a clip of LS talking about, teams losing their luster, right? Of LCS orgs, not being able to, and he mentions TSM by name, not being able to pool in the players because of, what's been happening over the last few years and all that. And here's what I'm going to say. LS has historically, from what I could tell, I shouldn't even say historically, in the last 2 years since I've actually paid attention to LS, he has seemingly been a TSM fan. Okay, I have always felt like he enjoyed and rooted and cheered for TSM. So I will say he's probably very disappointed in how they've been doing things lately. He is also now the new head coach of Cloud9. Okay, so there's at least a little bit of bias that he believes that what he is doing is the right thing to do in terms of going to Korea and getting talent there over TSM trying to find talent in the LPL. And yes, I can tell you from my own personal dealings and talking with people, with my sources, that the LCS or that TSM has lost the trust of a lot of players. And I can tell you this much. Something that I was told was that European players specifically, due to things like the Kabe incident and the Dardoch incident, which, was because of, partially because of Lena, who is no longer on the team, right? Well, she's still associated, but whatever. She's on offline TV now, I guess. That a lot of European players were weary of coming over to TSM because of it. And here's the thing. If that's the case, then it's a lot easier for TSM to go to China, where they probably don't know about these things as much, and find players. Is it a little bit manipulative? Maybe. I'll be honest with you. It could be. Especially if they don't actually change the culture of this team, right? As we've talked about, I think I like Reggie. I don't know right now. I mean, there's a lot of questions surrounding him, but if it's a problem and European players won't come over, then guess what? You got to go somewhere where you can get the players, and the LPL, China specifically, the LDL, that's where you go. So, sure, maybe some of the top players were told not to come here, even from China, but they're crazy not to see the brand that it could be, what TSM could be for them. So I don't really care if LS feels like we've lost our luster, because you know what? We went out and we changed. We found talent elsewhere. So it doesn't matter as much. Just being honest. The next thing is, how does an org not pull a CLG? It's very simple. The org still cares about the team and its players. And it doesn't fall into a pattern of listening to somebody who is clearly there for the paycheck. That team lost its luster because they stopped caring. They're owned by another organization that clearly doesn't care. I don't even know that Hotshot is even that involved with CLG anymore, especially the LCS team. Listen, whether you like Reggie or not, whether you care about how involved he is or not, because of the fact that his first love is TSM's LCS team, this team will always try to find a way to be relevant, period. He is not going to allow this team to not be relevant in some way, shape, or form. He will literally lose his mind on his team, on his players, on his staff. He will probably blow the whole damn thing up in terms of like who's running everything before he allows CSM to be completely irrelevant, like CLG has become. Now, there may be lean years for TSM coming up, but that does not mean that this team is going to be anything like CLG. I'm sorry, but they just care, and CLG clearly did not. CLG, even as an org, they got all that money, and what did they even do? I mean, you don't see them promoting anything. You barely see them having any teams even outside the LCS. Their LCS team is garbage every year. They finally made changes this year, but guess what? Like, they lost all their fan base because of the fact that they didn't adapt, they didn't get better, and they just have been terrible. And even when the team started looking better, right, like, they didn't pay for the pieces to make it better. And yes, TSM's not always the highest paying team. I totally get that. But they're generally top 5, and they generally have a good roster that they put together. And they find a way to bring in talent. And you can argue with me all you want, but a lot of great talent has come through the LCS pipeline of TSM. Not maybe as much as 100 Thieves or EG or Cloud9 lately, but they're still up there regularly. And I think that they're committing to it for the future too. I mean, that TSM Academy team, which I think we'll potentially talk about next year or next week. Won't be next year yet. So yeah, it's next week. That TSM Academy team is very intriguing to me. The fact that they were able to get Instinct as their AD carry is like, oh man, that kid looks, from what I've heard, he is very, very good. And I wonder how long Tactical's going to be here if that kid is as good as he says he is. I feel like he's almost like a backup plan for if Spica leaves, and then they can let Tactical go and bring up Instinct. And then have it be Instinct and Shinyi and either take over a Kaido, whoever they feel like, and then, maybe they go get Will or Kenvi for jungle and find a new top laner from wherever the hell they want to. I mean, that kid's a kid you could potentially build around in the future, from what I've heard. I have to do a lot more research before I can claim that. But my point stands, and they are doing a TSM amateur team. They're looking for a coach right now. I saw that on Twitter. So we will have an amateur team. They're clearly not putting into it what 100 Thieves are, but they're at least going to have it. So that's what matters. They're not going to pull a CLG. They're just not. I don't know that any team will ever be as bad as CLG was in terms of losing their brand luster. I think you could very easily replace CLG, and most people would not care right now. And it's sad because I know the CLG fans that have stuck with this team are diehard, and they're very, very good fans. But it reminds me of the Browns in NFL, where their fans are super strong and they are diehard. And right now, they're trying to revive the franchise, similarly to how the Browns did. And if they're able to, great. It'll really help this team. And if not, then, they're just going to be in for more years of pain. And that will make them potentially even more hardcore fans. Because one day when it finally pays off, they'll be happy. That or CLG is going to end up selling the freaking spot, and it's not going to matter. Which I will be honest with you, I've told more than one or two people that they should, if they have the money, they should just go buy that spot, because I think Madison Square Garden would consider it for the right money. My 2 cents there. All right. We're going to talk about the future of this team as a whole. So I'm going to move this back over to me. Our future for TSM, from my perspective, is a little uncertain. There is no doubt about that. And if we lose Spica, it's going to be very hard for a lot of TSM fans to swallow. But here's what I'm going to say. I am a fan of TSM. And while I am a fan of Spica and of Bjergsen and of Double Lift and of Broken Blade and all these other guys, I will support them where they go. But I will always be a TSM fan. And I want to challenge any of you who listen, any of you who watch, any of you who maybe even get a sniff of this. If you're just following around a player, then why do you care about what the team does? You should care about what the player does and then what the team does in terms of their successes. I hear a lot of people who are like, oh man, I'm leaving because Bjergsen's gone, or I'm leaving because Double Lift's gone. Tell me that you didn't root for Broken Blade or for Spica or for Biofrost, or for any of these other players. You care about TSM. You just do. Yes, the player brought you here, but deep in your heart, you ended up becoming a TSM fan as well. And for some of you, that's not true. Some of you really, truly only care about that player, and that's fine. But I'm just telling you right now that I fully believe that this team is going to figure it out. And that this is the first step of that. I really think that while I have my questions about Kaido, I think that if they wouldn't have gotten Shenyi, I would have been maybe a little bit more hesitant to where I'm at. I'm probably a little bit more, I shouldn't say probably, I'm more bullish than most analysts on this team, on TSM. And yes, I am biased. I'm not going to deny that. I try to take it out of my writing and my opinions on them as much as possible. For this show, though, I will fully express my biases, and I think this team could be very great. Not very good, but very great. Which I know doesn't normally work in the common vernacular, but whatever. The future for this team is bright. They're committing to younger players. Parth is still running it, and I know people don't like him, and I know they sometimes question him, But listen, this guy gets it in terms. I think he's a much better general manager than he is a coach. I may have even said that last year when Bjergsen took over as coach. Parth being able to see things from an outside perspective and be the general manager, I have faith in him. I have faith in Peter Zhang. I really do. And I think that Bika is their guy. Now, I without him, I worry more. But like I literally just talked about, I think when they sign players like Instinct and all these, these other young guys, Takeover's even been good. Hyper has been solid. Your son is good. They have 4 young, solid players on that academy team. And when I go through it, you guys are going to be shocked, I think, with how good that team could be. And so, I don't know, guys. The future of this organization, yes, I will say this much. To the beginning question of this segment, are TSM trending down? Yes, and I think they have been for a long time. And that's not as much because of us as it is because of everybody else in the LCS. When it's just TSM and C9 pretty consistently, then of course you're going to be considered great all the time. It's not going to matter. When you're so dominant for so long, you're going to have more fans than everybody else. You're going to be the one team that everybody wants to go to. If they want to come to North America, TSM and C9 are where you go, right? Because there wasn't anybody else. But guess what, guys? We're getting challenged now. It isn't just us. 4 years ago, when everything started to change, who was that team? Team Liquid. Steve said, I'm tired of 4th. I'm going to start paying out because I know I can win this. I have a vision, right? So TL came into it. And then the boys over at 100 Thieves, Nate Shot specifically. The guy came from Call of Duty, but he's so freaking smart. He knew, hey, the first place I want to go is the LCS because that's where he can build his fan base. That's where he can build everything. 100 Thieves are on the up and up. They're challenging us. Evil Geniuses come back. And yeah, they weren't great at the beginning. But boy, oh boy, that team, guys, they're starting to figure it out. They're putting it together. Their master plan is truly starting to come together. They're getting their fan base back in the LCS. They're going to be a very good team this year. They are challenging us. There's 3 more challengers, in my opinion. The rest of them, Immortals doesn't scare me right now. FlyQuest, CLG, Dignitas, and which one am I missing? Immortals, I think. Yeah. No, I already said Immortals. Who else am I missing here? Give me a second. I think I got them all. Oh, Golden Guardians. That's the other one. They're all good brands. They're getting better. FlyQuest specifically is trying to be better. And they were a couple of years ago. They were challenging. But now it's, there are 5 really top tier brands. And then there are 5, well, probably 3 not so top tier. And then 2 pretty bad ones. The 2 being Dignitas and CLG for me. So, there's just, yes, we are trending down, but to a certain degree, it's not because of us. Yeah, we should still be fighting for our top spot, but guys, these other brands, they're fighting for it too now. Okay? And they have made better decisions lately. So yeah, we are trending down, but there's an opportunity with this new young team, right? With these young players. Out of the 10 LCS players on our team, LCS and Academy players, I believe 8 of them are 21 years or younger. Okay? Including 2 teenagers in Instinct and in Shenyi. Those ones are ones I know for sure. I'm pretty sure are teenagers. This team is building more towards the future. And there may be some dark years coming up. There may even be, hopefully, only one dark split in spring. There may be none. But this team is always going to be pushing for at least the top 5 spot. And the competition is getting better, which is going to make us better, which is going to make the LCS better, which means that we are going to be better at Worlds eventually. It's just right now people don't want to, be patient for the process. And To those of you who don't want to be patient, I get it. I truly do. But let me leave you with this. At least we're not CLG. No, but on a serious note, I'll leave you with this. They're trying. They're not rolling over and just folding it up. They are not a team that is going so far down that they just can't find anybody. Yes, the Reggie and the double lift stuff and the Bjergsen leaving, all that hurt for sure. But they are having to build a new brand around new players and finding a new identity, and that takes time. And if you don't want to be patient for it, then fine. Go root for other teams. Be that bandwagon fan. It's cool. I get it. But if you're a true fan, you'll at least wait and see what they do with this team. And as long as the team is trying, I'm not going to be upset with them. They can't control everything. They can't control Bjergsen leaving. They can't control, double lift just randomly going off on a stream because he didn't get the things the way that he wanted to. They can't control Lena talking on his streams. They can't control, some of these weird things, that people do. That's the thing with brands, is you can't control that. But what you can control is the effort that you put in to making things better. And TSM are doing that, in my opinion. Let me know in the comments below. What do you guys think of TSM's future? Do you think they're truly trending down, or do you think things are getting better? Or do you think things can get better, I guess? Let me know. If you like this show, please take a look at please take a look into like, subscribe, and comment if you're watching our YouTube channel. As we head into next year, into 2022, guys, I guarantee you there will be more awesome esports content coming out from the Game House. Be on the lookout for it. If you haven't already seen a lot of our Pokemon Unite builds and everything else, Heartstyle Gold, I think, will be coming out in a more serious manner next year too. They've been doing a great job over there. Specifically, Mike has been crushing it, but I think you guys are going to like what we got planned for the future, even with that show. Hit that bell icon so you don't miss another episode. Let's keep pushing this, make this the #1 podcast. I think this last episode that I did 2 weeks ago might be the most viewed of all time, potentially. And I thank all of you new people for doing that, and I hope that you stick around. A lot of you are saying you were looking forward to new content. I hope this fulfills that. So, you can also listen to this on podcast too, if you didn't know, for those of you who just joined from YouTube. If you can't, watch it on YouTube, then, you're going to miss out on all this gloriousness of the wreath surrounding me, but whatever. Share this with your friends. You can find me on Twitter at TGHRobertHaines. If you want the most up-to-date on what's going on with TSM and with Talking TSM, follow me there. I promise you I'm reacting to everything that I can find. You can also follow the Game House at TGH Esports for anything that I might miss that we will be putting out there as well. You can use the hashtag TalkingTSM too, if you want to, just to tag me with questions or anything else that you want to talk about. Lastly, make sure you head to the Game House's TSM page. I will be having more and more content this year. I have plans to have regular content coming out next year. I've been saying it for months. I promise, guys, I actually have plans this time. I've had plans, but I didn't write them all down all the time. This time, I'm going to have a more rigid content structure next year. So that'll be good. And as we get into the season, I still haven't decided yet if I'm going to be doing Monday, Thursday episodes. I'm going 50-50 on it right now. We'll see how I feel coming into the year and how much work I have. That's really just going to be what it comes down to. So I'll do my best to potentially do 2, but I still will guarantee you at least 1 every week. So yeah. And with that, thanks for tuning in. The show comes out every Monday during the off season, maybe Thursdays during the regular season, and it's still exclusively for your TSM earholes. I'm Robert Haines, and this has been Talking TSM. I'll see you all next week.